So I've been thinking over the past couple of days about the Republican candidates over the past 40 years and how they seem to fit into two categories. One, the village idiots, the people who are just there by the grace of God and the grace of good luck. Or two, insiders slash war horses. I kind of refer to them as war horses more than I do insiders, although they can be insiders, who probably lost a presidential convention or two and then happened to get in just because they earned the spot. But look back at the past, going back to 1972. In 2008 we had John McCain, lost in 2000, pretty much deserved his spot because he lost to Bush. And Sarah Palin, who was then an unknown out of Alaska. 2004 and 2000 it was Cheney Bush. I put Cheney first because I think he kind of ran the White House, and George W. Bush was the titular president. Of course, it's supposed to be the other way around, where the president's there in the trenches and the vice president's kind of there titularly. In 1996, you had Bob Dole, and Bob Dole had as his vice presidential candidate Jack Kemp. I would call them insiders. In 1992 and in 1988, we had George H.W. Bush, who, of course, was president, then lost his presidency to Clinton, Bill Clinton, Slick Willie, and his candidate for vice president was Dan Quayle. Now, just let me interrupt you for a moment. You're hearing rumbles of thunder. We just had a thunderstorm pass through Pinellas County. I think we have a rumble or two of thunder yet to come, so that's why I'm trying to speed up and get this in real fast. You had Dan Quayle, who, of course, very famously could not even spell potato properly. 1980 and 1984, we had Ronald Reagan. I'd put him in the warhorse category because, of course, he lost in 76 to Gerald Ford. And his vice presidential candidate was, of course, George H.W. Bush, who became president in 88. We go back to 76. Now, forgive me for looking this up for a moment, but I think it was Nelson Rockefeller who ran with Gerald Ford as vice president. He was the sitting vice president. Let me just double check. Nelson Rockefeller. I know them all, but I gotta double check on this guy. Yep, he was the 41st president of the United States out of New York. He was also the 49th governor of New York from 59 to 73. So that mystery is solved. I would put Ford in there and Rockefeller in as what I would call the insider slash warhorse category, because Ford, of course, was on the very famous committee that the Warren Report that tried to solve the mystery of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And, of course, Nelson Rockefeller had been around for a while. That brings us to 1968, 1972. Richard Nixon, who was then, by that point, an insider because he had lost in the presidential race to Kennedy, very bitter race in 1960. Became president in 68 after Lyndon Johnson decided he would not accept a presidential run in 68, which probably was the smartest thing he did because he died in, I think it was 72. And Spiro Agnew was his vice presidential candidate, a governor of Maryland. I would put him in the warhorse category as well because he was entrenched well enough as governor of Maryland to have been caught on bribery charges, which caused the end of his vice presidency. He had to resign. Gerald Ford took over before Nixon resigned in 74. Thus, Ford became the first president not to be elected, but just happened to get there because a couple of guys in front of him had to resign. Agnew over his governorship of Maryland in the 60s, and Nixon, of course, very famously with Watergate. So 2012 is going to be a very interesting election cycle for the Republicans. Do they put up an insider slash warhorse, or do they put up a village idiot? And the way things are looking right now, this could go either way. They could do the famous warhorse village idiot mix and have a warhorse as the presidential candidate, a village idiot for the vice presidential nod. We'll just have to see. We still have a little less than 15 months before the 2012 presidential elections, and a lot can happen between then and now. So So this has been today's Big Paulie video blog on the, let me just check the calendar real fast as I always do just to make sure I don't screw up the date. It's August 17th, 2011. I'm going to take cover before we get some more thunderstorm activity. I can see the clouds gathering. And I'll catch you all again real soon. Bye-bye for now.